They rejected a single dad at job interview until he solved the CEO's biggest problem in seconds. Daniel Carter stood outside the towering glass headquarters, adjusting a tie he hadn't worn in years. The reflections staring back at him looked composed, but inside he carried the quiet weight of responsibility. Being a single father had reshaped his world. Every decision, every risk had to be calculated. Today wasn't just another interview. It was a chance to rebuild stability for his daughter, Emma. The lobby was expansive and polished, filled with marble floors and the low hum of professional ambition. Employees moved quickly, confident and sharp in tailored suits. Daniel felt slightly out of place, but he kept his posture straight. He had once belonged in rooms like this. He reminded himself of that as he checked in at reception. Minutes later, he was led into a sleek conference room where 3 executives sat waiting. Their expressions were professional but distant. A copy of his resume lay on the table between them, like evidence under review. "Mr. Carter," one began, adjusting his glasses, "your technical background is impressive. Systems architecture, cybersecurity, infrastructure optimization. But there's a 5-year gap here." Daniel met their gaze calmly. "My wife passed away. I became a full-time father." The room shifted almost imperceptibly. Sympathy flickered briefly, then calculation replaced it. "So, you've been out of corporate environments for quite some time," another executive said. "This position demands long hours, high pressure, full availability." "I understand pressure," Daniel replied evenly, "and I've continued consulting remotely. Problem solving doesn't disappear." The executives exchanged subtle looks. One leaned back in his chair. "We need someone completely committed. No distractions." Daniel felt the meaning behind the word, distractions. He kept his tone steady. "My daughter isn't a distraction. She's the reason I'm disciplined." The air grew heavier. The decision had already been made. He could see it in their posture. Polite rejection masked as corporate practicality. "We'll be in touch," the first executive said. Daniel nodded, stood, and thanked them for their time. As he walked down the hallway toward the elevator, he overheard a quiet whisper behind him. Too much risk. The elevator doors closed and he exhaled slowly. It wasn't anger he felt. It was exhaustion. The constant need to prove that being a devoted father didn't make him less capable. As he stepped into the lobby preparing to leave, raised voices echoed from a glass office overlooking the floor. Screens flashed with error messages. Employees rushed back and forth. Daniel glanced at the display, and instantly he saw the problem. Daniel slowed his steps as the tension in the lobby intensified. Employees hurried past him, whispering urgently. Inside the glass-walled executive office, overlooking the main floor, several senior staff members surrounded a large digital display filled with flashing red warnings. "Why is it still crashing?" someone demanded. "We patched it twice," another replied. Daniel glanced at the screen again. Lines of system code scrolled rapidly, error logs multiplying by the second. He didn't need more than a few seconds to recognize the pattern. A recursive authentication failure. The server wasn't just crashing, it was attacking itself. He hesitated. This wasn't his company. He had just been rejected. Walking away would have been easier. But instinct overpowered pride. He stepped toward a nearby manager. "Your system's stuck in a loop," Daniel said calmly. "It's duplicating failed authorization tokens instead of resetting them." The manager looked irritated. "And you are?" "I just interviewed upstairs." Before the manager could dismiss him, a firm voice cut through the noise. "What did he say?" The CEO had stepped out of the office. His presence shifted the room. Instantly, confident, focused, used to being obeyed. Daniel didn't waver. "Your authentication protocol isn't clearing corrupted tokens. It's stacking them. That's why the server load keeps spiking." The CEO studied him for a long second. "Can you fix it?" Daniel nodded once. "Yes." A keyboard was pulled aside. The lead engineer hesitated but stepped back under the CEO's stare. Daniel approached the system, his mind already mapping the architecture. Years away from corporate buildings hadn't dulled his instincts. If anything, life had sharpened them. He scanned the code quickly, ignoring the noise around him. There, a misplaced conditional command inside. The reset sequence. It's not triggering the fallback, he muttered. His fingers moved with quiet confidence. Delete, rewrite, insert, correction. Simplify the logic chain. He pressed enter. The monitors froze for a heartbeat. Then the error log stopped multiplying. Red alerts turned amber. Amber turned green. The system load dropped steadily. Silence filled the office. An analyst stared at his screen. Traffic stabilized. Another checked the metrics. Core servers responding normally. The CEO stepped closer, eyes locked on the now stable display. How long would this have taken? The lead engineer swallowed. We weren't even looking in that direction. Daniel stepped back from the keyboard. You were treating symptoms. The failure was at the root. The CEO turned slowly toward him, seeing him differently now. Not as a rejected applicant, but as the only person in the room who saw the problem clearly. What's your name again? The CEO asked. Daniel Carter. The CEO gave a small nod. Mr. Carter, he said firmly, let's talk. Daniel followed the CEO into the glass office as the noise outside slowly returned to normal. Employees were still whispering, still glancing toward him, but the panic had faded. The system was stable. The crisis had passed. Inside the office, the CEO closed the door and studied Daniel carefully. You solved that in under 2 minutes, he said. My senior engineering team has been working on it all morning. Daniel remained calm. They were patching surface-level triggers. The architecture itself wasn't flawed, just one conditional logic chain. The CEO nodded slowly. How did you see it so fast? Daniel gave a faint, almost tired smile. When you spend years solving problems with limited time and high stakes, you stop overcomplicating things. You look for the root. The CEO leaned back against his desk. Your resume says you stepped away from corporate life. My wife passed away, Daniel replied quietly. My daughter needed me. And now? She still needs me, Daniel said firmly. But I also need to provide stability. I can do both. There was no desperation in his voice. No begging. Just quiet certainty. The CEO walked toward the window overlooking the office floor. The executives upstairs didn't think you were a good fit. Daniel didn't react. I understand their concerns. Do you? The CEO turned slightly. Because from where I'm standing, I just watched you save this company from a public disaster before an investor call. Daniel exhaled slowly. I wasn't trying to prove anything. That's exactly why you did, the CEO replied. He moved back to his desk and picked up Daniel's resume, scanning it again, but this time differently. 5-year employment gap, the CEO read aloud. Full-time father. Daniel met his gaze. Yes, the CEO placed the resume down. That's not weakness. Silence hung between them. That's discipline, the CEO continued. That's responsibility. That's someone who doesn't quit when things get hard. For the first time since walking into the building, Daniel felt something shift. Not validation, but recognition. What kind of position are you looking for? The CEO asked. Daniel hesitated. One where results matter more than perception. A faint smile crossed the CEO's face. Good answer. He walked to the door and opened it, calling out to the same executives who had interviewed Daniel earlier. They entered, confusion visible on their faces. The CEO spoke clearly. Gentlemen, you nearly sent home the most capable systems mind we've seen in years. The room went still. And that, the CEO added, looking directly at Daniel, is a mistake I don't intend to repeat. The conference room felt different this time. The same polished table, the same executives, but the balance of power had shifted completely. Daniel sat calmly at one end while the CEO stood near the window, hands folded behind his back. The city's skyline stretched out beyond the glass, but inside the room, all attention was focused on one man, the single dad they had dismissed less than an hour earlier. I want to be clear, the CEO began. Today, this company avoided a catastrophic investor disaster because Mr. Carter happened to still be in the building. One of the executives cleared his throat. Sir, we weren't aware he had that level of... That level of what? The CEO interrupted sharply. Competence, focus, leadership, silence. Daniel remained composed. He wasn't enjoying this. He wasn't seeking revenge. He simply watched. The CEO placed a folder on the table and slid it toward Daniel. "Senior Systems Director," he said. "Full authority over infrastructure strategy. Flexible scheduling. Hybrid structure. Competitive executive salary." The executives looked stunned. "But sir," one protested, "we need someone fully available. No external distractions." The CEO turned slowly. "He solved in 60 seconds what your department failed to diagnose all day." No one responded. "Availability," the CEO continued firmly, "means nothing without capability." He then looked at Daniel. "I don't care that you're a single father. I care that you see solutions others miss." Daniel finally spoke. "I won't sacrifice my daughter for a title, and I won't sacrifice talent because of outdated assumptions." The CEO replied. That was the moment everything settled. Not pride, not ego. Mutual respect. Daniel opened the folder and reviewed the offer carefully. It wasn't just a job. It was stability, security, a future where Emma wouldn't have to worry about whether her father's effort was enough. He signed. The executives shifted uncomfortably as the CEO extended his hand. Daniel stood and shook it firmly. "Welcome to leadership," the CEO said. Later that afternoon, Daniel walked out of the building with a quiet sense of peace. The same glass doors that had felt intimidating hours earlier now reflected something different. Not a desperate applicant, a valued expert. That evening, Emma ran toward him as he arrived home. "Did they say no again?" she asked softly. Daniel knelt and smiled. "No," he said. "They said yes." Her face lit up as she hugged him tightly. As he held her, Daniel understood something powerful. Rejection isn't always the end of the story. Sometimes it's the setup, and sometimes the very thing people see as your weakness is the proof of your strength.